And it's so sad to me to be watching the politics of this unfold in the United States and then the mainstream medium. People actually rooting for failure. If you're rooting for Trump to fail, you are rooting for us to lose. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome aboard the MAX Afterburner podcast, sponsored, powered, brought to you by the No Fallen Heroes universe and Sacred Warrior Fellowship. Man, it's been a while. I know Teresa and the ladies have knocked out some great content. Make sure you're subscribed to the No Fallen Heroes YouTube channel and to the MAX Afterburner podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify, Stitcher. What else? Wherever cool kids listen to podcasts. Man, we have so much to talk about. It's just absolutely incredible how much the world can change in an instant. We're gonna take a deep dive into some uncomfortable topics. We're gonna talk about war today. We're going to talk about healing. So maybe we could avoid war in the future. Man, but you know what? Before I get super deep, we're going to dig into the Kuwaiti F-18 shooting down 3 United States Air Force F-15E Strike Eagles. You're just not going to, you are going to believe it because it's coming from me, but I paused because I did a couple videos this week after that shoot down, updating folks with some essentially first-hand info. Not going to reveal call sign or name, but I'm going to share with you the intel about this shoot down. But the reason I'm pausing is because I wore a couple of these different lids throughout the week, and invariably whenever I throw one of these on, it's usually because I just got back from yoga and didn't take a shower yet, and I got yoga head. But hey, where do we, folks, you can get all these lids at getmaverickmind.com, GET maverickmind.com. We got the kind of the white winter camo with the Maverick Mind logo. We got the regular camo with the Maverick Mind logo. And then this is the OG. This is the camo with the No Fallen Heroes Foundation logo, the F-18 busting out of the Pentagon, literally. This was the hat that A.J. Buckley, my brother from another mother, wore on SEAL team during the last season. Sonny always had his hat for that stretch, and he's on our advisory board. Great dude. Took him flying in our fighter jet, and he's just a great American. So getmaverickmind.com. Order a lid. The proceeds go over the fence into the No Fallen Heroes Foundation to help us, fund retreats. We're going to sadly need, we got more veterans coming. Seeing, it's just devastating. 6. We've lost 6 so far. Soldiers, men, women, forever young, they will always be. Their families, God bless their souls. God bless their families. We have many wounded. These rocket impacts and these explosions I'm seeing on video, those are all traumatic brain injuries. The last time we had this in 2020, I think there was over 100 traumatic brain injuries as the result of Iranian rocket attacks. It's just so... every time it's like Godfather 3, man. Every time I'm out, they pull me back in. I keep telling people the main mission objective of the No Fallen Heroes Foundation and Sacred Warrior Fellowship is to go away. We should not. Well, Sacred Warrior Fellowship is going to be. We started a movement, baby, but the No Fallen Heroes Foundation needs to go away. My 3 to 5 year mission objective, first of all, is to try and end or reduce veteran suicide, but we shouldn't be doing this. There should not be veteran nonprofits doing what the VA should be doing. Not throwing drugs down and over-medicating veterans, but healing the deeper wounds with sacred compounds that have been used for millennia. You guys, I'm not going to repitch. You guys know that by now. Along those lines, actually, We're heading to spring break to do some skiing out in Colorado. But when we get home, March 27 to 29 is a Sacred Warrior Fellowship retreat down here in South Florida. If you're interested, email Suzy, SUZI, at sacredwarriorfellowship.com. Veterans, first responders, families, civilians, seekers, anyone seeking to reconnect with the divine inside. Remember to return home, to remember that God does not make imperfect things, to let go of some things. I so look forward to the ceremonies and our fellowship and the work we're doing. And there's no way in hell you could have convinced me years ago that I would have started an entheogenic fellowship and church. And I'm so pleased. I'm so happy. It helps in my healing and my reconnection and getting closer to God. So retreat 27 and 29 March. I forget our April dates. We're trying to knock out one a month. If the March dates don't work for you, just reach out to Suzy and say, hey, when's your next retreat? Okay. Weeks ago, man, we're going to go down memory lane. I was 11. I remember this. It's a distinct memory. It's part of my life. I remember Miracle on Ice. I remember the Soviet Union, right? In the old days, we knew good, bad, right? We knew good and evil, an evil empire. Soviet, communist, socialist, although some people run around this country think communism, socialism are great. Then when they're actually talked to by somebody who's lived under it, and they're like, actually, keyboard warriors, man, with zero lived experience. But I remember the Soviet Union and the oppression and those young men. They weren't pros, remember, right? Now the NHL guys, can play. These were kids. These were college kids. Mike Eruzione, OC, Jack O'Callahan, these kids. Ah, man. Great movie, obviously, Miracle. But I remember that. I remember them being the Soviets. It was a big deal. And then, after 444 days, after Jimmy Carter's absolute train wreck, I remember our hostages, our American hostages, getting off of these military aircraft or airliners with a placard on the door of the one airliner that said, "Welcome back to freedom." This is 80, 80, right? Miracle. And then the hostages released from Iran after the radical Islamic takeover of that great country. The Persian people, what a good group of folks. The Persian people, the Iranian people. Radical Islam took that country over. They kidnapped Americans. And that began 47 years of terror and murder from this radical Islamic regime. That's what we're going to dig into. Let me be clear. I am so for religious freedom. Love it. Constitution was built on it. My church falls under it. Love, love, love religious freedom. However, the instant your religion crosses the border into mine and says, wait, you don't believe in my God? Well, I can kill you. My God says, go kill unbelievers. We're going to have a fucking problem. Benjamin, get the musket. All for religious freedom. Leave mine alone. I'll leave yours alone. But these radical Islamic terrorists, that's not what they believe. Period. Kidnapping people, putting them in orange jumpsuits and cutting their heads off. My God. You can't draw a picture of our God. Well, come and cut your head off. Remember that Charlie Hebdo or whatever the thing in France? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and ripple through everything, but I remember a radical Islamic regime taking over this once beautiful and great country and people and start screaming death to America. And it began. 47 years. I remember the Marine barracks bombing. Hundreds of Marines killed. French and some other troops too. The Achille Lauro. I used to have all this stuff memorized. I remember Khobar Towers. It's when I was over in the Gulf a couple years. They blew up a U.S. Air Force barracks in Saudi Arabia, folks. I know the 608 Marines, sailors, soldiers killed by Iranian forces and IEDs when we were in Iraq. I remember the USS Cole, sailors killed. So, folks, I hate being a numbers guy, but it's at least 1,000. Let's just round up and say thousands of Americans, specifically the majority, our service personnel, have been killed by this radical Islamic regime. Those are facts. The fact that this hasn't been handled within day one of when one of these things happened is our own fault. And it's the fault and the failure of previous presidents. Barack fucking Hussein Obama, what'd he do with the mullahs to get a nuke deal and to get some hostages released? He flew unmarked airplanes in the middle of the night full of pallets of cash to the mullahs. How'd that work out for us? Well, they used that cash, Whiz, to build more IEDs and kill more American soldiers. Oh, my God. Mumbles McShitty Pants Biden and the mullahs. 47 years of death, murder of Americans. And the radical Islamic regime, they're fucking cowards. Hezbollah, Hamas, they fought with proxies. You all, I mean, we're willing to die for Allah too, but mainly you all. You know, we'll supply you and give you weapons, and you keep attacking Israel for decades and decades and decades. They were the puppet master. What's that guy, Sinwar? That dude is the dumbest military tactician or strategist in history. Hey, October 7th, let's invade Israel. What a domino. That murderous terrorist invading Israel was a domino that led to the fall of Hamas, led to the fall of Hezbollah, and now to the fall of this radical Islamic regime. Talk about unintended consequences. So, for any of you who don't know your history, there's some of it. Why'd you bring up the Olympics and the hostage crisis? Well, because the last time the men's hockey team won a gold was in 1980. So Matthew Tkachuk, his brother, and Austin Matthews and the U.S. men's hockey team beat Canada. Great game for the gold. The women's team beat Canada for the gold. Well done, ladies. And then what happened? Oh, the president called them, and some insane people in this country, their faces melted off, right? And then they went to the White House, which is even, it's such a small minority in this country of nuts. And the media loves to shine a spotlight on these people. When they got home and they showed, all the Olympians at their home game, the places were going nuts. Hell, the opposing team, who was it? The Panther. Every other team who had like a gold medalist on the other team brought that guy out too, and the crowd went crazy for both. I mean, it was a moment of patriotism when we could all unite, and we can't because of hyper partisanship. It's destroying this country. God, people are miserable, man. Take a microdose, go for a walk, meditate. Put your phone down. Celebrate the fact that these young men won. And some of these nuts, again, didn't like the fact that, Jack Hughes, the golden goal scorer, said he loves his country. I love America. I'm proud to represent this country. How dare you? Are you insane? Who is that beta male skier? A lot of bad stuff in my country. I'm just here to represent my family and my friends. Then don't fucking go. So you're only representing the Americans that you kind of agree with. Everybody else you're not? Are you? What? I am old enough to remember that politics used to stop at the shore. That's what the saying was. Democrats, Republicans, everybody kind of, once you leave, it's some mafia, man. Fredo, I love you. You're my older brother. But if you take sides against the family again, Now people, as soon as they leave this country, they can't wait to get in front of a microphone and badmouth it. Then don't serve. Don't put the flag of America if you're not representing all of us. I'm just representing the people I agree with. Wrong. When I put a flag on my uniform, I represented every American in this country. Didn't matter their political opinion, persuasion, sex, race, creed, anything. That was lost. And how'd that skier do? He finished like 10th. There's a picture of him putting an L up on his head. Yeah. All the hockey players that said we love our country, one guy was praising God and everything like that, they all won. Then what happened? God forbid, State of the Union. Also at the State of the Union, two incredible aviators. Chief Warrant Officer 5, with his legs torn apart during the Maduro raid. Put his helicopter in between the enemy and the guys getting out. Moved it into position to absorb fire and return fire. Legs all shattered. Did the Democrats stand? The guy was in a walker and he stood. Then a 100-year-old naval aviator, the longest dogfight in history, 40 minutes, 7 MiGs against him. It was top secret for decades. Why? We weren't at war with the Soviet Union, but we were. He shot down 4. They think he got a 5th and maybe even another one. Definitely damaged at least 2 others. Wow. 100-year-old naval aviator. Brought tears to my eyes. Democrats? What's wrong? What's wrong with this country? I get the State of the Union theater and, we're not going to engage. Man, 70 of them didn't even go. You're getting paid to go. That's your job. You draw a salary from we the people. Show the fuck up at your job. It's maddening to me. I need my microdose. I hate feeling like this too. I hate this type of negative energy. It's ego, it's old Whiz, and it flashes up every once in a while. And I apologize, but I got to get this stuff off my chest because I bottle it up. It's awful. So the State of the Union was a train wreck. Maybe designed to be that way from Trump. I don't know. And it's so funny, Democrats, you walk into the guy's trap. You know you're walking into his trap. Don't touch the stove. It's hot. Don't touch the stove. It's hot. You burned your hand. And then they blame you. It's so stupid. Couldn't stand for Irina, the poor immigrant girl stabbed in the throat, left to die on the subway in Charlotte or wherever that was. Not going to stand for her parents either. You support immigrants, but you don't, they have to be terrorists, child rapists, and, murderers. We'll go blow our whistles and block your agents in with our cars. But when it comes to Irina, we don't give a shit about a blonde girl from Ukraine. Escapes war-torn Ukraine to get stabbed in the throat by a dude that's been arrested like 20 times. There's a reckoning a-coming. There is good and evil in this world. I ain't no saint. I ain't no pope. I ain't no anything, but I kind of feel and I can see what is right and what is wrong. And remember, before we get into war stuff, truth is truth. Truth isn't good or bad. It just is. Whether you see something that's the truth, you don't like it, oh, okay, great, that's on you. You see the truth and, wow, that's awesome. Great, okay. It doesn't matter. Truth is truth. And I know a lot of what I speak is the truth. I feel it. The truth shall set you free. I am the way, the truth, and the life. That guy, man, he was on to something, wasn't he? Week later, or however many days later, Operation Epic Fury. Before we get into war discussion, I'm going to tell you it's a horror. Thank you, Father. Thank you, God, that I never saw direct combat. I don't call myself a combat veteran. One of the two of my awards says combat sorties over Iraq, the most boring flying I've ever done in my life. The scariest part of my combat sorties was landing back aboard the boat at night, low on fuel on a pitching deck. It was just Operation Southern Watch was boring. It had its moments. The Iraqis got SA-6s with optical launchers. They lit us up, but it had its, trust me. But direct combat, no. And I'm thankful. I hope veterans who have been involved in direct combat or taken somebody else's life and you don't, it's not something you should aspire to. The young men and women who serve this country in the military are the people who want war the least. Why? Because they're the ones that have to do it. And they're the ones that have to deal with the after, the moral injuries. So before we start talking about war, it's not glorious. It's not fun. It is the ultimate failure of the human condition. It doesn't get any more of a failure as a human, as a soul, than to kill somebody else. It's a failure. Leaders, politicians failed somehow. Now, if, God forbid, war has to occur, right? Vladimir Putin clearly hasn't done ibogaine or done a retreat. And I'm not joking when I say this, folks. I know it elicits a chuckle or whatever. If I could kidnap Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, the Ayatollah before he was vaporized, and Netanyahu, and they did a retreat, I promise you none of this would have happened. That's not funny. It's truth. And if you don't believe me, go talk to a veteran first responder family member or civilian who's sat with these compounds. They'll tell you. I told you a month or two ago about Rick Doblin, telling the story on Joe Rogan. He said, hey, man, I got former Hamas terrorists together with IDF veterans. It was almost impossible to get these guys in the same room. Got them on a retreat. They're best friends now. I tried to bring them to psychedelic science in Denver, but the Trump administration wouldn't give the former Hamas terrorists the visas or something like that. I'm not joking. The reason we have war and all of this and crime and hate is people are not healed. Raging egos. They do not know or recognize that we are all one. We are the same cosmic stardust where the greatest thing ever said, let there be light, and there was. You came from it. I came from it. The atoms, the molecules, everything in my body is the same as yours. One team, one fight, and that fight is to love each other, not kill. So as I step through some things talking about war, let me say something that might shock some of you initially, but when you think about it, you're going to go, that's brilliant. If war God forbid, has to happen, it should be as horrific and violent as humanly possible, so it ends quickly. So both sides say, oh my God, this is a horror. We have to stop immediately. That's clearly not what we're doing in Ukraine. We're on year 4 of a meat grinder in Eastern Europe. Like or hate President Trump, I don't care. The man acts with overwhelming force. So the guy proved, pounding the Houthis into the dirt. You haven't heard a word from them last year. Operation Midnight Hammer pounded Iran into the dirt. They started to rebuild their stuff when they were told not to. And the Maduro raid. And now Operation Epic Fury. It's been a year and 2 months, folks. This guy, it proves that 2 decades of war in Iraq and Afghanistan was because we didn't have the will to win. It was a jobs program for the military-industrial complex. A 4-star admiral or general testifying, everything's going great, we just need some more weapons. From the company where my buddy works, who retired a couple years ago, and he's recruiting me to go there when I retire. All of those forever wars were useless and didn't need to be forever wars. Fact. The fact that this guy is ripping through these engagements proves. I mean, we lost Vietnam because we were fighting with both hands tied behind our back. You can only shoot MiGs down if they're in the air, not on the ground or taxiing for takeoff. What? Hey, these Soviet ships are in the harbor. They're offloading surface air missiles. Well, no, you can't hit those because you got to wait till they get in location and then try and shoot you down. What? One more time. God forbid war has to happen, but make it as horrific and violent as possible so it ends quickly. Do you understand that? I don't want this. I hate it. I hate war. I hate death and destruction. It gives me agita. You got acute angina. Well, that's great because your face is ugly. But okay. So, decapitation strike. And it's so sad to me to be watching the politics of this unfold in the United States and then the mainstream medium. People actually rooting for failure. If you're rooting for Trump to fail, you are rooting for us to lose. You are rooting for young men and women like my son, who's leaving for an Air Force deployment in a couple weeks, to potentially get killed or hurt. That's how mental these people are. That's how nuts. Are you kidding me? I could not stand Barack Hussein Obama or Joe Biden. But the second they ordered troops into harm's way, we'll talk about that in a second. I'm on board for the big win, Mr. President. And you are my president too. Not this, he's not my president. Grow up. Where's all the liberals and Democrats who are frothing at the mouth about the war powers and this is an illegal war? Not a word out of these hyper-partisan hypocrites when Barack Obama bombed Libya into the Stone Age and regime change. You ever see the video of Muammar Gaddafi? I love Grok on Twitter. When all these Democrats do this, I'm like, Grok, did this politician condemn Barack Obama's regime change in Libya and Syria? Nope. That's fantastic. Hyper-partisanship is destroying this country. If you didn't say a word when Obama was engaging in war in Libya, in Syria, he bombed 8 countries, folks. He was the drone strike president. How many? I lost over 500 people Obama killed in drone strikes. Democrats cheered his bold leadership. Trump does it. Oh my God, impeachment and war powers, war crime. Do these people ever step outside of themselves and look at them and go, man, I'm a complete hypocrite? Of course they don't. I can't stand the double standards. So let me dig into some just absolute buffoonery. A couple days ago, breaking news, 3 F-15E Strike Eagles. What's a Strike Eagle? It's a 2-seat F-15. It's a bomber. It's a fighter and attack. They're not cool like we are in the Navy. We call it an FA-18 Hornet, fighter and attack. Air Force, it's F-A-10, but F-15 Strike Eagle. All right, whatever. Technically, it's an FA-15, but 3 of them shot down. Patriot battery. Oh, no. I was mobilized for Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 when we were going to, or my squadron did deploy on the Roosevelt. I was one of the 5 guys left behind that we were going to rotate in. Because there's like 20 dudes in my reserve squadron, and there's only room for about 15 Hornet pilots from each squadron on the boat. There's limited space. And they're like, all right, we'll rotate you guys in to ease the strain of a long deployment. Got a call. My sea bag was it was literally packed. They're like, we're coming home. It's over with. I'm like, well, narrator, it wasn't over with. But the huge initial Bush mission accomplished banner, it wasn't over with. But I didn't get to go on OIF. I bring this up because in 2003, Patriot battery shot down an F-18 Hornet, killed the guy. His widow sued Raytheon. And after that, well, one more, a British Tornado, a 2-seat fighter attack jet from the Brits, shot down by a Patriot battery. Both guys killed. That's 3. And then around that time, an F-16 CJ, which is like a wild weasel. They go in and blow up enemy radar and surface air missile site. He got lit up by the Patriot, and he lit off a missile at them. He shot him first. So when this happened, this got reported the other day. I'm like, whoa, 3 from a Patriot battery? The Army, after the 2003 mishaps, changed the SOP. No more leaving the computer, the HAL 2000 in auto. Because they just be sitting there drinking their coffee. Whoa. The computer determined that's a bad guy. Fire. Whoops. No, there has to be a human in the loop. So when it was reported, I'm like, I don't know if that's the truth. And then that sounds intentional. Initially, that was my immediate reaction. I'm like, 3 Eagles? And then I'm horrified. I'm like, is all the crew safe? Everybody see the videos of the crew? There was a funny post I saw. So the F-15 gal, I think she was the pilot. She apparently landed near like a beach resort, like a nice neighborhood. How do I know this? And let me, I'll tell you the other half. The one dude, a guy like picked up a log or had a metal pipe over his head like he was going to attack the pilot. And the guy's like, whoa, American. And they're like, oh, okay. And I saw a Kuwaiti post like, let me explain this. She landed in a nice area near a beach resort, and he landed in what you would call LA and Chicago, bad area. I'm like, I appreciate the reference. So some of the guys landed in, but I mean, they were in Kuwait, supposed to be friendly Kuwait, right? So thank God none of them got killed, but I did see one of the guys in the back of a SUV or a trunk with a mangled mitt. This guy's hand did not look good. I pray he heals. I pray they fix his mitt and he can get back in a jet. That did not look fun. Then it comes out days later, Kuwaiti F-18 shot him down. What? So much to undig here, especially, and I raced to the podcast studio to do this one today because look at this war. There's people on the ground with cell phone footage. There's cell phone footage of this Kuwaiti F-18 shooting one of the Eagles down. You can see it. This is insane, the footage that we're looking at. So let me give you a little. I am kind of an expert in this. It's so funny. I post stuff on social media. Actually, I'm like, okay, man. When I dropped my letter, you have to tell the Navy like 8 months or a year before, that you're resigning your commission. So I was going to get off active duty, go fly fighters for the reserves and be a rich airline pilot. So I dropped my letter in 99. Guess what happens when you drop your letter? Your name goes on a whiteboard in Washington, D.C. like as a quitter. Let's hit these guys with the good deals. My young son, Matthew, was what? How many months old? He was, it was 2000 technically because he was born in 2000. He was, a couple months old. And I'm going to tell you this real quick. They picked another quitter, so-called another guy that was going to the airlines. There was a couple of us. They picked him. You have 90-day orders. You're going to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. You're going to go be the mobile targeting officer for JTF SWA, Joint Task Force Southwest Asia. Thank you for your service. Man, what a shit sandwich to do. Well, this former friend of mine, he had married a Brit. And if you marry a foreign national, you're supposed to go update your security clearance. They got to wait a minute, you married a foreign national, even if she's a Brit. You got to go update some stuff. So the executive officer of our fighter attack training squadron told him, hey man, you're heading out in 2 weeks. Go over to the wing, to the intelligent S3 intel or whatever Marines call this stuff and update your clearance. He didn't. He literally, I can't believe the guy my squadron didn't arrest him for this. I actually healed all this, but as I'm retelling it, it's beyond belief. He disappeared for a couple days. He didn't even come in to the squadron. I think he just. So what happened? I got called into the XO's office one day. And he said, hey, man, we've been trying to get him to update his clearance. And, it just hasn't happened. I'm like, okay, what's this have to do with me? And he said, well, you're going to be on an airplane in 24 hours and you're heading to Riyadh for 3 months. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? My little boy, Susie had a C-section. She wasn't doing too hot. Unbelievable. I'm like, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. The airline ticket, uniforms, zero chance. In my 10-year Navy active duty career up until that point, it was the only thing that worked flawlessly. I got a massive FedEx box the next day, like a wardrobe box. All my desert uniforms with my name, U.S. Navy, my wings, my rank, boots, hat. I'm like, are you kidding me? And my airline ticket, of course. I have a picture of me holding my boy Matthew in San Diego International Airport before I left. There I go, man. Thank you for your service to your country, Whiz. Now go spend 3 months in Riyadh. I bring this up because I was the mobile targeting officer, man. I sat in the CAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center. Okay. The big screens. I sat in the big leather chair right next to a major general who then put on lieutenant general. I was the dude's right-hand man. What to bomb, what to shoot. I was that guy, the mobile targeting officer in a CAOC. And I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons. And that's its own podcast about everything that's going on. But I'm going to tell you about the guy at all the way at the end of the table. Since we were in Saudi Arabia, it's their country. They had the right to have one of their dudes in there. And every once in a while, it would be like a Saudi Eagle pilot or some dude who got stuck with that shit duty. Like, oh, you got to go hang out with the Americans for the day. We used to joke, and maybe I took some action, but those guys ended up faxing our ATO, our air tasking order, whenever we put it out that night up to the Iraqis. I guarantee you. That's why maybe somebody I know who's a really awesome dude would make fake ATOs to give to the guy. That's a whole separate story. Why do I bring up the KAOC? Because now it came out that a Kuwaiti F-18 shot down $300 million. How many F-15E Strike Eagles? How could this happen? Let's talk through a couple things. Let me go back to my cruises off of Lincoln. That's my boat right now. Lincoln's on the tip of the spear, launching vast majority of these combat missions. Makes my heart smile to see the footage coming from the Lincoln. So on the Lincoln or the Kitty Hawk, when we would launch off the boat, first of all, as soon as you get it on the flight deck, as soon as you power up, a guy comes by with a big box. He would point this big box and like squeeze a trigger at some of the little dimples on your airplane. That was an interrogator. He had the top secret codes, and he's carrying a mini radar. Like, let me shoot your airplane and make sure I get the right response. So you couldn't even take off. Like if the codes weren't working, they'll launch the spare. You can't go over bad guy country without squawking that equipment working, right? Soon as you got airborne, the surface ship, the big cruiser, right? Red Crown was like the Secret Service agent. They were the goalie. Once you left the battle group, they lit you up to make sure everything looked good. We can tell you're a good guy. And then you went, right? Now, I did my 44 missions, and but sometimes I would fly CAP, Combat Air Patrol. So where Kuwait is and Iraq kind of come together, that's where we'd have, it was called TCAP, Toronto CAP for whatever reason. So I and another Hornet would be hanging out here. So when the strike package would be leaving Iraq, I'd have like a copy of the airplane in my cockpit, and we'd count and we'd lock them up on radar to make sure there were no leakers, no squirters kind of hiding in the conga line to go back to the boat. We were also a Secret Service agent, right? So we'd get airborne and hang out at that CAP as the strike package passed us. And then when they came back, we'd sit there and make sure, it's just them going back to the ship. And then Red Crown, the boat, would do the same thing in reverse. So, and we always used to joke, like when I was a strike lead, I'd go find the CAP guys and be like, don't shoot us. It's us. There's 15 of us. We're coming back. And they're like, and I do the same. They do that to me. If I was flying the CAP, invariably the strike lead would come and be like, Whiz, don't shoot us. It's us. It was a running joke. Guess it's not funny. Don't shoot us. So I bring that story up because a lot of people are like, hey, why didn't the Eagles shoot back? Or weren't they defensive? Let's step through this. Let's talk about me launching off the Lincoln to go over Iraq. Once you get airborne, you hit the tanker overhead the boat or in Saudi Arabia and top off with gas. Before you go into bad guy country, we do what's called a fence check. You're getting ready to jump over the fence into a bad guy backyard. Do you have all your shit together? There's a checklist, obviously, but I would go from the left side of my cockpit all the way to the right side and look at every switch. Is it where it's supposed to be for combat? My ECM, my electronic countermeasure suite, my jammer, I'll leave some of it out of it, but folks, there's a fence check. And you'd come up on the radio and say, Shield 01 fenced with your fuel state, meaning everything in my jet is fully combat capable and it's on and I'm ready. I got my mouth guard in and my chin strap fastened. Then, mission complete, going back to the boat, you fence out. Whiz, Shield 01 fenced out, fuel 4.0. Fenced out is the exact opposite. I turned all this stuff off. A lot of the stuff you have to turn off, folks, because some of it, and I won't get too deep, operates automatically. You don't want chaff and flares popping out of your airplane as you're coming to land aboard the boat. So you would fence out. Turned all the combat stuff off, now I'm turning it off. So this is going to be the Whiz debrief, and I got this, the vast majority of this from again, no name, no call sign, the guy who trained the Kuwaiti Air Force pilots. He's a Hornet brother of mine. Lived Kuwait, in Qatar right now, gutter, teaching Eagle guys. He knows. He's the one who wrote me and say, hey, I saw your Instagram vid. Let me tighten it up. So I actually took that one down because I'm like, ooh, okay, I need to tighten up some stuff. So the Strike Eagles coming back from bad guy country. They are fenced out. What do they see? Well, and we call it delousing, right? That was the cap. The Combat Air Patrol has to delouse the strike package. Make sure there's nobody hiding with you. Okay. So the Eagles see a guy who's doing his job. It's a Kuwaitis, F-18s. We're passing them to go to Saudi or Prince Sultan Air Base or wherever they were landing. So their guard was down. That's a friendly. We're over friendly country. We're feet dry. We're feet dry over Kuwait. We made it. Whew. Oxygen mask off. Taking a drink of Gatorade, man. Logged a combat mission. Can't wait to tell everybody in the ready room. Fucking boom. Let's switch to the other side. What was going on the Kuwaiti side? So the AOC, not the idiot congresswoman from New York, the Air Operations Center, the Kuwaiti Air Operations Center, not like the one I was in where it was U.S. run and everything like that. The Kuwaitis have their own AOC, Air Operations Center. And kind of the reverse of me. It's all Kuwaiti dudes and a lone American in there hanging out, kind of doing what the Saudi dude did when I was in Riyadh. One guy, one American. The AOC at this time was under attack. They were getting hit by those Iranian drones. They were literally in combat. The ground controller, the Kuwaiti ground controller, declared those Eagles hostile enemy. Now we're going to get into a little bit of politics, or just the Kuwaitis are saying that the American guy said, hey, man, they're not on my ATO, air tasking order. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he had an outdated one. I don't know if they're lying. All of those are possibilities. But they are claiming now, well, the American, dude in our AOC said he didn't know who they were. So hostile. So they passed that on to the Kuwaiti pilot, and he goes to work. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, he was flying a legacy Hornet, an older one. He did not have mode 5 to interrogate their IFF. They're getting more modern Hornets and stuff like that. This is an older Hornet. He did not have some of the Gucci stuff. Again, I will leave stuff out of this. There are other systems on board the F-18 that can tell you what that plane is. Don't know if he ignored it. Don't know why. So you just don't need the mode 4. There are a lot of other ways. And guess what the most awesome way is, folks? Your fucking eyeballs. So according to my former Kuwaiti Air Force type of source, it was 2 heat-seeking missiles. In the video I saw today, you can see the Hornet. You can see the missile come off, Sidewinder, aim 9, and hit one of the Strike Eagles. So most likely what happened is the Eagles are, again, mask off. Hey, how far out from base are we? And, I got to go to the bathroom. Hurry up. They see the Kuwaiti guy go by him. Hey, he's doing his job, looking for leakers and everything like that. And he swings their wing line and fucking hoses them up the tailpipe with a couple. And folks, you can shoot really quick in the Hornet, man. You can point at one, shoot, and you're already pointing the next one, shoot. He had told me one of the shots was BVR, beyond visual range. So I don't know if he put one in their face on the way in and swung their wing line and then shot them. But folks, one more time to all the keyboard warriors, why didn't the Eagles do anything? That it was, it's like God forbid, a Secret Service agent who, what is that Tom Clancy novel? It was like a Secret Service agent who was raised, to kill the president one day. How do you defend against that? You can't. I mean, now I guarantee you they've changed their SOP and, but here's the problem with this, folks. The Kuwaitis doing the American, ain't nobody on this planet that can clear a Kuwaiti Air Force pilot to fire than the Kuwaiti military. That dude sitting in their AOC, the American, does not have any authority over anything going on. And they're throwing him under the bus. I'm going to tell you, and this might not sit well with you, I really don't care. It's truth. Remember what I talked about at the beginning? Truth isn't good or bad. It just is. The culture in Arabic fighter aviation is awful. Most of these countries, you have to be royalty because it's cool. And, it's this is the most elite thing, being a fighter pilot. And you're either royalty or you're close to the royal family or you got massive political connections. That's a fact. I've seen it. I've flown with these people. I went through flight school with the original Kuwaitis when they bought Hornets ages ago. I know what I'm talking about, Instagram key warriors or YouTubers. Why do I bring this up? They never lose, and you suck. When I did Inspired Alert, it was an exercise with the Pakistani Air Force. It was off the Kitty Hawk. Yeah, it was off the Kitty Hawk. One day I went out and I schwacked 2 Pakistani F-7s. It was like clubbing baby seals. I killed them out at range. They had old F-16s with Sparrows, radar missiles that had to keep you locked up the entire time to kill you. I'm shooting them at fill in the blank miles. They're dead before I even got to the merge. And then when I got into the merge, again, clubbing baby seals, I ended up gunning both of them. They never even came humanly close to getting a shot. The next day, I jumped on a COD, a propeller plane. I was picked as one of the people to go in and get to debrief my flight. I went to Mazroor Air Base. Oh my God, that's a whole nother podcast, man. Because I got to fly in the back seat of an F6, and it was the most. That's the closest I've come to death. Was in the back of that. It was. My hands are shaking talking about it, man. That was nuts. But anyway, I get into the debrief, and actually, the one guy was like the squadron commander, and a younger guy. The State Department briefed us we weren't allowed to win. You had to just sit there and smile and take it. Oh, and by the way, the Pakistanis also, we had women fighter pilots and aircrew, and they, no women in Inspired Alert exercise. Of course, we didn't listen to that. We still flew our women, and they ended up shooting down a bunch of them too. They didn't fly in to do the debrief, incident or something like that. But man, in the debrief, it was comical. The skipper's like, "Oh, nice valiant try, Mr. Whiz. I shot you here. You died here. You died repeatedly over here." I'm like, "You got it, man. Nice. Woo. Ah, wow. I didn't see that. It was a joke." They do not lose. I've flown into Kuwait. I've been in Riyadh, Oman. Man, I could ripple them all off. Pakistan. There isn't a single one of those cultures where it's like the United States military fighter pilots get into a nameless, rankless debrief. Like, hey, man, this. I mean, it is the egos are insane in that culture, especially in fighter aviation. I'm bringing this up because the Kuwaitis are near deadly silent on this shoot down, and they're starting to. I'm hearing through all my sources that they're going to blame the American dude who has no authority at all. The only person who has ultimate authority during this whole shoot down was that Kuwaiti pilot. He signed for the airplane. When I went flying in the Hornet, took my pen out, E. Matthew Buckley, Lieutenant, United States Navy, with the date. I own that jet. You are a single-seat fighter pilot. You are the only one on the planet that can put your master arm on and squeeze that trigger, and he did it. So it doesn't matter if they were declared hostile. The dude had eyeballs. The video I saw today, he's well within visual range, WVR. He could see them. And here's the ultimate lack of situational awareness out of this Kuwaiti pilot. The Iranian Air Force ceased to exist in about 24 hours. And this was broad daylight, there was no way in hell 3 Iraqi MiG-29s were getting airborne, let alone making it across the Gulf into Kuwait. Use your thinking brain, dude, like I did. I've told this story before, but it'll be brief. Speaking of the IFF having to work, it's been a long time now, so I'm going to be honest about it. I was on the deck getting ready to launch on a mission to go over Iraq. The dude came by with the box on the flight deck and like shot one of my dimples. And I got a mode 4 fail message, which means, hey, your top secret stuff failed. And the guy looked at me with the box. He's giving me the thumbs down like, hey, man, this ain't working. And I'm like, I need to go flying. I had so much ground stuff. Isn't that weird? I had so much ground stuff going on that I wanted to get airborne to do a combat sortie over Iraq to relax. Remember, folks, as a naval officer, flying was like job number 5. I was the administrative officer, quality assurance. So I had like 9 jobs before. So I'm like, I need to go flying. So I gave the guy a thumbs up, like, nah, man, in the cockpit, I'm looking good. He's like, really? It's down. I'm like, no, I'm good. Here's why I did that. Because I knew we had 2 spares. It sucked getting scheduled to be the spare. You had to go to the whole brief. You had to man up your jet, and you sat there, and you had to wait until every jet got airborne and a couple minutes. And if everything was good, then you could shut down. You did everything, and then you got nothing. So I knew as soon as I got airborne, the Red Crown, the cruiser, would interrogate me and go, hey, man, you're bad. And they would launch my buddy who was in the spare. We're both going to get some flight time. God is funny, because here's what God did that day. So I got airborne, and right on cue, as soon as I switched to Red Crown, they're like, hey, you're sour, meaning your IFF ain't good. You can't go over to bad guy country. I'm like, oh, no, that's too bad. My buddy on the back radio, he's like, oh, awesome, Whiz. Yeah, thanks. I'm like, you're welcome. So what do I get to do? I went up to about 35,000 feet, right on top of the carrier, man, to wait. They call it the penalty box. I took my mask off, got drinking my water. I'm just beautiful day. And up at that altitude, folks, it's a lake. There's Iran, there's Saudi, Kuwait, there's Iraq, there's mountains of Kazakhstan with snow on them or whatever. I don't even know. I'm like, you can see, it's a lake, folks. You can see everything. But I'm up there at 30,000 feet, hanging on the blades, saving gas, to wait for the strike package that I should have been in to come back, and I'll land with all my buddies. Well, here's what happened. Whatever my call, I'll say Shield. Shield 01, mother. That's the name of the boat. Yeah. We need you to go investigate a contact. So a contact had gotten airborne out of Bushehr. Bushehr was a joint use military civilian air. They got airliners, they got military airplanes. Contact got airborne out of Bushehr. It's coming towards the carrier. Go investigate it. I'm like, oh, all right. Mask on. Let me start descending here. And I locked this thing up, and it's doing all of, 80 miles an hour, 100 knots or whatever. And it's at low altitude. And I'm hauling ass coming down from 30,000 feet. I'm like a dog on a kitchen floor, man, trying to slow down, speed brake out, and pulling G's, trying to slow down. I finally get a visual on this thing. It's an Iranian helicopter. I fly by it as slow as I can without stalling. I got like my flaps down and everything like that. And I go by this Iranian helicopter. It's a big helicopter, single dude, just one dude in the front with a big crate in the back. I could see in the windows as I went by, just a big box crate and one dude. And when I went by, he just kind of looked at me and then kept his eyes forward. I'm up the international, distress frequency, telling him, hey, avoid, turn left, turn right. You're heading to a U.S. warship. No response. So I tell the boat, I said, hey, man, Iranian helicopter, single pilot, big crate in the back. He's pointing right at the boat. Now I take up kind of position behind him, and he's flying right towards the Abraham Lincoln. And I'm like, say intentions. After I tell them what all this stuff, I'm like, I don't hear anything. I'm like, say intentions? They're like, stand by. Now, if you don't know, standby is military for, okay, we don't know what's going on either. And I'm like, oh boy. Now he's getting like about 2 miles to the boat. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, say intentions. They're like, stand by. I drift back, and I lock this guy up with an AIM-9 heat-seeking missile, right? I put the master arm on. Here's what's going through my head. And this is all happening in seconds, milliseconds, but it seemed like a lifetime. That's a small nuke. Today's the day they're going to kamikaze that nuke and sink the Lincoln. And if you don't do something, Whiz, you're going to be forever known as the guy who let 5,000 sailors and Marines die and put a carrier on the bottom of the Gulf. And then it's like, or not, or you're going to kill this innocent man. Hero or zero. Now we're at a mile, and the boat comes up and says, escort. I'm like, oh, which means just stay with him. I'm like, oh my God. I remember actually thinking through like, well, if he does like crash into it and it blows up and the carrier sinks, just fly up to like 90,000 feet, Whiz, and go straight down. Just like I actually thought about that. I'm like, I am not going to like Kuwait or Saudi Arabia to land at an airfield when all those people died because of me. All of that went through my head. He went right on top of the Lincoln, and I actually remember subconsciously like turning my head or like closing my eyes. And he kept going. I'm like pulling out a Lucky Strike cigarette out of my flight suit, like, oh my God. And then he kept going. And like 2-3 miles past the carrier was an oil platform that he landed on. I'm like, oh my God, man. Why do I tell that sea story? Because I used my thinking brain. We've always been at war with Iran technically, but there was no really, really hot something going on, right? So I kind of used just situational awareness and said, you know what? No, I'm not going to shoot. And I remember talking to the admiral and the CAG later, and even my commanding officer, like at dinner, they're like, you know what? You probably would have been okay if you smoked him. I mean, not your career. You would have been destroyed and you would have killed a man, but that was a tough one, Whiz. And obviously you chose right. I'm like, oh, awesome. So I'm bringing this up because the Kuwaiti F-18 pilot needed to have, he needed to use his thinking brain. He needed to have a little bit more situational awareness than, hey, the guys on the ground told me these guys are bad. I'm just going to kill them. No, that's the old Soviet thinking, right? All the Soviet bloc fighter pilots were literally, it was called GCI, ground controlled intercept. They did everything from the ground. They told you when to turn, when to shoot, everything. We never did that in the West. You're a single seat fighter pilot. You make the decision in the cockpit, Whiz. You're up there. We're in the ship in the air conditioning. You're in charge. Completely different ways of thinking. And obviously ours is better. And that's not ego. That's truth, as represented by this dude smoking 3 of our Strike Eagles and wounding some of our airmen. So that's bad. So that's your full debrief. The Eagles thought the guy was doing his job, and I guess technically he did, but a little too well. My buddy who texted me all this stuff, who's over there, who knows all of this, he's like, there's a 0% chance that the guy did it on purpose. Stupid, yes. Idiot, yes. Malfeasance, malpractice, yes. But I texted him back. I'm like, hey man, the odds of getting eaten by a golden retriever are never 0. And he's laughed. He's like, well, there's a 0.0001 chance that he did it on purpose. I think that's just stupidity, man. I mean, the F-15E Strike Eagle is a flying tennis court, man. It's massive. It's not an Iraqi MiG-29. And him shooting that heater, the heat seeker is just the guy could tell who they are. Now that everybody's safe and everybody's alive, I of course can start joking about how the F-15 Eagle used to have 104-0. They've had 104 air-to-air kills and never lost one. Now it's 104-3. But and for all the Kuwaiti hate I'm going to get online or Saudi or whatever like that, first of all, keep it to yourself. But let me say this. We're not without sin, man. Was it 1994? I think in northern Iraq, 2 F-15s shot down two Blackhawks, Army Blackhawks. They thought they were Mi-24 Hinds. They killed, I think it was 25 Iraqis, Americans, Kurds. We've had our own friendly shoot-downs, man. Speaking of Iran, 1988, I think, USS Vincennes. I mean, folks, I just graduated high school. I'm in college, and we were in a gunboat battle. The USS Vincennes was a cruiser in the middle of a gunboat battle with gunboats. Like, when's the last time, Battle of Midway, naval engagement like this? But the Vincennes was engaged in surface action. Their cannons going off, and they're at battle stations, and they're in it. Aircraft gets airborne out of Bouchier, coming right towards the Vincennes and this battle. I just told you it's a joint use civilian and military airfield. The TAO, the Tactical Action Officer, Skipper, we got an unknown contact out of Bouchier coming right for us, and it's descending. All right, did you try and, we've yelled at the frequencies to change course and everything like that, and it's not listening, and it's descending, and it's kind of heading for us. Shoot it. Iranian air flight. Out of Bouchier going to like Oman. It was descending because it got airborne for a quick flight and was going to go land across on the other side of the Gulf. What an absolute horror. Hundreds of innocent civilians killed. Fog of war. So we are not without sin, folks. Blue on blue, blue on green, civilian mishap like this, it's an absolute horror. Thank God all the air crew got out. It's man. That's why we're going to end on this high note of how about we don't have to do this? How about we don't have any more war? How about we all, if you're going to have a religion or a belief, say, I'm fairly certain mine's right, but if it's not, I love yours too. How about we don't have religions that say mine's the only one, and if you don't agree with it, I'm allowed to kill you? That's not going to work in today's society. That might have worked for a couple thousand years. It ain't working today. Radical Islamic terror, we have to call it for what it is. The second your beliefs impact mine and come after mine, it's going to be go time. That's not me talking tough. That's me talking truth. Leave me alone. Leave me and my religion alone, man. I love yours. And folks, and to be clear, I use the word what? Radical Islam. Is the Muslims, Islam, the vast majority of what I read, and it's not representative of all of them. I get it. But when's the last time you saw like a big imam or anybody like condemn the radical? You don't. See a lot of them out there breathing fire and hate and death to everybody else, but I rarely see them condemning the radical part. We do. I see radical leftists or radical rightists in this country. I'm going to light them up. I rarely see Muslims condemning radical Islam, and that's kind of a problem. But I pray, man, all the roads going up the mountain lead to the same destination, man. When I use the word God, it falls short. How can you use a human word that can't even, it limits? I fail when I use the word God, because what I experienced lying on my back on a mattress in Mexico, I can't explain it to you. I fail by using the word God. And I don't care what your word is, whether it's Allah. Call it Steve. It's it. I am that I am. I am the Alpha and the Omega. When we as humans try and quantify, we have to put, it's measurable, and we need a word to describe. You can't. So again, with the labels, man, and of course I'm going to get some grief from the Christians and and the Jesus, and hey, man, a little bit of Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? Some of the most self-righteous people are Christians, man. Is it lonely up on your cross, judging other people? If you believe Jesus is the way, the life, and the truth, as I do, awesome. You can try and talk to other people about it, but if it ain't resonating with them, leave them alone. Religious freedom. I pray that there is no more death, whether Iranian people, military. Folks, real quick, who was it? John Dunn, right? Any man's death diminishes me because I am of mankind. But whom does the bell toll? It tolls for thee. When the Ayatollah was killed, it was like celebrate or dance. I mean, it was justice. It was 47 years in the coming. But it's death, man. Death sucks. Now, of course, I believe it's that nobody dies. We transition to a higher level of consciousness, Christ consciousness, oneness. But what I'm getting at, man, is I don't want anybody to die. The enemy, my friends, I don't want any of this. So let's pray that we can limit the amount of more death. I pray that our young men and women, my young son, everybody comes home safe to their families. I pray, God, that we finally, I'm not too bullish on this, God, but give us some close air support. I pray that we finally see that war is never the answer. And if we fail as humans, because that's our lot in life, God, with the free will that you've given us. You did not make us as robots to bow 24/7 to you. You gave us the ability to love and to hate, good and evil, day, night, the duality of man. The only thing that does not have a beginning or an end or an other is you, the uncaused cause. So I get it. We're living through the result of our free will and our choices. But man, if you can give us a little, well, you know what? That's what I'm going to end on. I'm trying. I started Sacred Warrior Fellowship. I have seen meat-eating knuckle draggers on the other side of ceremony go, man, I see it now. We are all one. It just doesn't make sense to do this. Now, don't get me wrong. You break into my house, you hurt me, coming after my wife or kids or my country. You don't want to see an awakened, healed guy. But my point being is people need to heal. People need to reconnect with God. Sin is separation. The belief that we are separate, the belief that we are separate from God is sin. And Sacred Warrior Fellowship, through ceremony and reverent use of our sacraments, destroy that ego. They let us, what's ego mean? Edge God out. It lets us see on the other side of that thin veil. You're right there. They're all right there. My sister Monica, my father, my 16 brothers and sisters who have transitioned, they're all right there. And I know they weep every time we decide to pick up a rock and start bashing each other in the skull. I know I weep. So I pray for the Iranian people. I pray for our young men and women that they come home safe, and I pray that we find peace on earth. I think we can do it. If this resonates with you at all, if you'd like to be a part of our fellowship or join our movement, head to sacredwarriorfellowship.com. Like I said, our next retreat is March 27 to 29. Make sure you listen to I think the girls' podcast. They did some training offsite recently, and Teresa's doing a great job getting our theology tightened up and writing songs and our scripture. I'm just so, this is awesome. What was I getting at? Oh, go watch I think it was just my last podcast where I talk about what Sacred Warrior Fellowship is not. And folks, if you want to, I want to go do some mushrooms in Florida, that's not it. I can send you to Oregon. I can send you to Colorado. This is serious heavy lifting. You have to join our fellowship, our articles of faith, our constitution, our guiding precepts. This is serious spiritual work. This isn't, hey, let's just go have a fun weekend, man. I don't think I've never sat with a sacrament and it's been fun, so to speak, folks. It ain't recreational. It ain't fun. This is heavy spiritual lifting. So go to sacredwarriorfellowship.com or email my beautiful bride, Susie, Suzi, at Sacred Warrior Fellowship. If you can't make the March retreat, we'd love to have you at one of our next retreats. And obviously, go to getmaverickmind.com, and you can order one of our cool lids and be the cool kid in the neighborhood. And every little bit helps, man. Every little bit helps to help heal our heroes at home. Okay? All right, folks, if you hung this far, you deserve a medal. Have a great rest of your day. Fights on. Namaste and Basi. Whiz out.